Hi world, Frida Reba Darcy and Patricia O'Connor here today on the Bonsai balcony. It is episode 4, four of the beginner series. Today on the Bonsai balcony, beautiful day in Alameda, we are going to discuss, look at those clouds, what an interesting looking day. We're going to discuss, it's going to be a short show, and we're going to discuss easy trees. Trees, how to get started in bonsai, what is considered easy material, what is hard material, what do we mean by hard material, and what are nice trees to get started with when you are getting started with bonsai, and what are some things that would keep you from being discouraged. All of those little things. We're going to wrap all that up quickly too. For starters, about a half a dozen years ago, I got back into bonsai after it being a childhood hobby. This was before the internet when I got into it the first time. So I had access to the information that I could find at my local Texas rural library. Not a lot of stuff. And I actually came away with some misconceptions as a 12-year-old thumbing through the minimal reading material there was on bonsai. But I knew basically just looking at things that pines were a big deal, maples were a big deal, cherry trees were a big deal once a year, and junipers are a really big deal. So that was kind of duh. But that doesn't mean that they're easy to grow, and also they might be a big deal because they're tricky. So they're kind of considered carte blanche. You know something if you have one of those. And certain trees undeservedly kind of have that reputation. You don't have to know everything there is to know about bonsai to have a Japanese black pine, but to have a superb Japanese black pine, you do have to know a couple of tricks. For instance. And then you hear people say, I can grow this tree, and they're mentioning something that other people consider tricky. And you think, wow, I wish I had their gift for growing. A lot of times what we think is someone's gift is their location. Location is so important. I get away with murder when it comes from your and my perspective as people that are less than 100 years in bonsai. I get away with murder with Japanese black pines to some extent because I live in an area that is very, very similar to the area where these guys first evolved. These guys evolved on the Japanese coastline. Japanese black pines, we're talking about Japanese black pines. Japanese black pines. Japanese black pines. So, what I would go off and tell people, anybody can grow Japanese black pines. But then if you get out of an area where they grow, you won't have that kind of luck with them. So I get away with things. And you'll also, as a beginner, sometimes you'll see people getting away with things that are not for everybody. We play, and I say we because I learned this from people who have been doing this longer than I have, locally I'm speaking. I have seen people play fast and loose with potting season when it comes to, for instance, Japanese black pine. And it's just because here, our climate is so temperate that I can just about repot one of my Japanese black pines any time of the year, and I'm not the only person but you can't. And I'm saying you can't because the odds are that you're not my next door neighbor or 20 miles down the road. As people who live in the rest of the world, they can't just do that. So when you're seeing people do things, consider where they are. And if you're wondering, go to the questions and ask, hey, where are you and what time of year were you doing this? And then put that into consideration. Is that comparable to something I have growing on here? Now, when it comes to easy trees, I always said one thing that is nice to do is find something that grows well or voluntarily. Say somebody just cleared a lot, just knocked down something, and you're looking at a square of dirt. Notice that a year from now, or something that happened a year ago, and notice that what has taken over there. What's filling in there. What are the trees that are coming along first? When you're sitting at a red light or a stop sign or something, whenever you have a moment to pause and look around your surroundings, what grows well there voluntarily? That's probably something that you could get away with keeping. If you're a beginner, that makes it easier. That's one less thing to have to do or to worry about if you're already growing something that does well where you're having it. Now, having something that grows well where you live does not necessarily mean it is easy to bonsai where you live. There are certain trees that people don't make a habit of putting bonsai effort into because of their nasty habit of casting away limbs indiscriminately. Like if I had 20 years growing in this and then all of a sudden it just decided to kill this limb or something. There are species of trees that, and it's not necessarily something that has rhyme or reason. It's not like you go, well, I should have had that in better light or something. Certain trees are just weird that way. So that would be an example, and if all you have to do is keep that watered, then you may have a great example of that tree that's being stunted, but at any given time, it may wreck your design aesthetic by deciding to kill branches. So that would be an example of something that's easy to grow, maybe, but then still hard to design. I was having trouble in the early going trying to get my cork bark oak to adhere to some design aesthetics because of things I didn't know. What we learned in the process was ample feeding, ample watering, and pruning of tips. And I'm quickly learning how to dial in. I've learned a couple of years ago how to make this thing do exactly what you're looking at now. Put out buds and shoots and ramify to the holy hill. What I haven't quite figured out, and I think I'm getting closer, is the timing. How long do I want my foundation to grow before I cut it and cause it to start being secondary and tertiary? Taking one branch and cutting it off, and then it forks off, and then those fork off, and then how long do I allow all those? That's timing. So in the beginning, I made this foliage too thick by ramifying, by cutting everything off too short, and it just got really, really thick. So it's easy, but in the beginning, it was hard for me to ramify until I learned a few tricks, and then that was easy. So I would say that for a lot of places, again, depending on where you live and stuff, but for me and for most people who live in for United States or Mexico or Central Europe and stuff, a cork bark oak is a relatively easy bonsai tree to grow. One of my first trees to experiment with, and I experimented in a big way, were these Taxodium phytum, American bald cypress. Very, very rewarding. Very, very fast growing. I've heard of these guys doing well outside as far north as Michigan and as far down as Mexico. And there's even a subspecies that exists along the Rio Grande that is a bald cypress. Not a bald cypress, it's a cypress that's very, very much like this, but it has slightly different bark characteristic, and it can grow in or on water or near water, next to water, like these guys do. But that's the key to it, water. If you can water your tree every day, you can have a bald cypress. If you can give it water and light, you can have a bald cypress. They're fairly easy to ramify. They lend themselves to more than one kind of style. I'm going to do these three trees in what's called a formal upright. They're going to be just basically specimens. I'm going to try to do them like minimal scarring, perfect branch structure, all that. They're so easy that I decided earlier I should not pull out any stops. I should try to do my A-game bonsai on these trees, because the tree themselves aren't going to be throwing me a lot of curves. Like I said, they're easy to ramify, they're easy to grow, they grow fast, and they have great characteristics. This is what we call this is the base of the tree. This is where your eyes are supposed to go. When you walk up to a tree and look at it, you're supposed to start here at the area we call the nabari, and then work your eyes up the tree. Here with those fluted, these are buttresses. Oh, that's so satisfying. You know, that makes for a really wide base, which is very complimentary. That's something that is aesthetically pleasing in bonsai, is a wide base coming up out of the ground. So then we work our eyes right on up, and we have this nice fluted base going on up to these, right? Just absolutely love. To me, my drawback is a little bit of pruning that I did this year, that it was not for the moment but for later. Next year, when it comes out again with a full flush, I'll look forward to having more of a diamond shaped, like branches down low coming out long, and then more through. We look a little spotty now for reasons that involve pruning. It's all good, it's all okay. But I would say these trees are very rewarding, very, very easy to grow, and they don't do well in snow. They don't ice over well. But they're high temperature hardy. In a bonsai pot, you don't want to let these guys to dry out on a hot day. They will wilt and just totally wreck the foliage. But having said that, they otherwise tend to... they'll be the ones that survive the high temperatures so long as they're watered. They can stand water. So if you wanted to go Blowtown for a few days, or go to Burning Man or something, you could probably set a tree like that in a vat of water deep enough, halfway up the pot, and then skip town, knowing that there's still going to be some water in the vat when you get back. The trees will have been fine. They've adapted to survive that. This is my California coastal oak. Easy tree to grow, easy tree to ramify, very impressive bark. This is about a 40-year-old tree, so takes it a little while to get this rugged and cool looking. But oak species, as they stand like this, can get a weird case of the sniffles every couple of years and totally wreck your design. I've been told by other people who have been doing bonsai that you kind of have to be ready for something that can come through in the country you live in. Like I've been hearing something about beetles for the last couple of years. Well, thank goodness we haven't had any of that. But we did have some sort of black death come through about 3 years ago that left huge chunks of this tree gone, and I was just like cutting back huge, So trees easy to grow, trees easy to feed, trees easy to ramify. I had been doing something called systemic treatments to make sure that it doesn't get most of what we can inoculate the tree against. But there are some things that aren't covered by that. So yeah, and I would also recommend that. I don't know everything there is to know about bugs and pests. I know the things that I need to look out for that everybody sees on a yearly basis. Having said that, there can be a weird strain of something come through, and you won't even know about it until you go to your bonsai club or something and you hear that a lot of people have been having that. I don't really know why that makes me feel better to know that I wasn't the only one that went through this, but I did feel alone in the world when I was cutting major chunks of this tree off every day, only to have 3 or 4 inches back turn black before the very next day. So, easy to grow, pain in the butt. Dawn redwood, easy to grow, pain in the butt. I've had design problems or aesthetic problems with this tree as long as I've had it. We are on a pretty good place. We're in a pretty good place currently. So it's not a hard tree to grow. It is a hard tree to get to carry out a design and have it go your way without doing something. So that's kind of what we mean when we say some things are not as easy, some things we absolutely mean that you can turn around and lose them and not know why. So that's what we could mean by hard to grow. And other things, when we say they're hard to grow, we just might be referring to the part that they're hard to do predictably bonsai tree things and have them come out the same way. Incidentally, let me just add this. This, meaning these, are a lot easier to do than this. And I'm not referring to the bonsai pot. Japanese black pine. Japanese black pine singular, I should say. 50 some odd Japanese black pines. Don't even know what that number is. Tens of Japanese black pines. So if I had 10 trees, let's just say this was 10 trees. If I had 10 trees, it's very, very easy for me to water these trees, put these trees in light, and tomorrow see how these 10 trees are doing. If one of them decides to look yellow, I can look at it and go, what's your deal? Are you dry? Are you missing waterings? And it's probably the tree. Maybe moving it will help. Maybe the next time I look, it'll be fine. But it's really, really easy to balance the watering on something, especially when you have to learn how much is the proper amount of water. It's a lot easier to learn what that amount is when you have 10 trees. When you have one tree, nothing to gauge on. This is your bonsai experience. Your total bonsai experience depends on this. Out of these 50 trees, sometimes I'll lose one. Just like one will be sitting there kicking everybody else's butt in height, and the next time you turn around and look at it, and that maybe happens once or twice a year, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's got the same, I have all of these other trees that go, yeah, no, we're okay. But if that was my only tree, I would be going, darn, I can't do bonsai or whatever. So it's easier to have 10 trees, and it's easier to learn how to do that balance of water and oxygen. And it's easier to learn what that looks like when you have 10 trees instead of your entire bonsai experience focusing, you're like new parents. You're just sitting there staring at the thing while it's sleeping, and that's kind of creepy. I'm kidding. But I'm just saying, you overcare for things is one thing that takes out a lot of new bonsai. And being able to divide that attention amongst other things will not only help you to get better faster, but it takes some of the pressure off that being your bonsai tree and your bonsai experience. Do you need water? No? Okay, how about now? Do you need water? Still no? Okay. How about now? Do you need water? All right, Pat, don't be annoying. So that is just a little bit. It is a lot easier. I was told a couple of times by different people who wanted me to evolve faster and worry less. I was told several times it's easier to grow 10 trees than it is to have one little bonsai tree. That is so true. Thank you for playing the part of the one solitary little bonsai tree. And I wasn't just pointing at this tree. I was saying if I had just that tree, that's really hard to gauge and to learn watering if everything that I know about watering is just done on that. Here, you pick up quick. They're either overwatered or they're underwatered in mass, and you back off or you speed up, or you water this half more and water that half less, and in 2 days I'll know who's happier. It's so automatic, I don't even have to think of it that way. All right, that's 19 minutes in on what is an easy tree to bonsai. Easy trees to bonsai are things that grow locally, tend to be easy trees for you to keep alive. Then consider whether or not they're easy trees to ramify and style. I appreciate you. Frida Frida here appreciates you. Welcome to Bonsai. There is so many cool things to learn and do. The first year in Bonsai, my style aesthetic changed a whole lot in the first year. The first things I started to do don't even interest me now. Watch out for that. Don't spend any, try to minimize your spending. And yeah, that's it. Make your mistakes. I was gonna say, watch out for this or that, but you know what? It's all a part of it. Thank you all so much for watching. Boom, it's you, babe.